G'day, ladies and gentlemen. Wonderful to have you here and to see you again on this incredible day. It's getting warmer, which is lovely. I am actually physically able to deal with the temperature, which that's just been a lovely thing for me. You know, not to feel like my ass is falling out of my testicles because they have forced their way inside of me to escape the cold. And yes, I know exactly what some of you are going to talk about in the chat, the fact that I'm already bitching about the fact that it's cold. It's not my fault. The land is wrong. A bunch of people chatting about a few of the things that came up in the earlier show and that was spoken about by Rob, which I think is one of my favorite conversations that I've ever seen. So check out Twitter for it. And that's if War Dollies was like boxing and you got to play your intro music as you walked up to the table, like what would it fucking be? I think that's just the best thing ever. We got a lot to talk about today, but first and foremost, the most pressing issue, and if you are one of our early adopters, if you are someone who has jumped in the chat nice and quick, you can help me decide. I'm going to give us, I'll give the chat a couple of minutes to decide. Now, I don't know what to drink today. I'm stuck in a slight bind. I have my whiskey, which is as is tradition. Got some whiskey, single malt Scotch, Glenfiddich. Lovely stuff, absolutely lovely stuff. So that's there. That's an option. The other option, for apparently doing relatively well at work, I was gifted a bottle of Australian sparkling rosé. So, ladies and gentlemen in the chat, sound off as to which you would like to see me drink this evening, sparkling rosé or whiskey. It's entirely up to you. I'll give it a couple of minutes, and then whichever cops more comments, that's what I'm going to be drinking. Fair warning, I only have like tumbler glassware, so if you do choose the rosé, it will be straight out of a tumbler. Rosé. Okay. Yeah, all right. Hypnocracker jumping in there. Pretty keen to see that one. Same with Alex. Lovely. Also, Alex, lovely to see that you've been with us for 3 months. If we'd had a baby, it'd be a third of the way there. How lovely is that? From between Nathan's bosoms. Yeah, right. So look, I'm feeling like so far we know where the happiness and the joy is in that one. I definitely have to have the little finger sticking out as drinking it. Hypnocracken pointing out something that's interesting. And the one thing I'd like to say about, which is obviously will be spoken about when we know more, and that's the whole allegiance stuff and mercenaries, which is potentially having stuff from another Grand Alliance in your thing. Now, the example that they gave was Fire Slayers in, I believe, a Chaos Army or a Nine Jaws Army or some crap like that. Now, I get the knee-jerk reaction, right? I felt it too. Like, fucking Hypnocracken putting out there that Skaven in a Dispossessed army or Dispossessed in a Skaven army, like, that just triggers me so damn hard that it's not funny. But the thing I will say is this, right, is coming into Age of Sigmar 2.0, one of the things that they leaked and they spoke about was the introduction of command abilities and command points and all of that kind of stuff. And I remember the absolute fucking unmitigated furor. Like, there were people saying that it was going to break the game, that it was going to ruin everything, blah, blah, blah. You know, it was going to set fire to their cat. So there were a lot of people who were very, very violently opposed to the idea. And myself personally, I wasn't stoked about it, having seen its effects on 40k. But the one thing that I kept saying to people is, like, for me, like, don't knock it till you tried it, you know? Like give it a shot, play some games, see once we've got the whole picture before jumping in. Now, I am a messy bitch who loves drama. I will say that every single time. I love me some drama. However, before we decide that Mercenaries has caused the sky to fall, let's just remember that previous times when we've been fucked up about something and then it hasn't actually worked out that way. So let's just say, like, before we jump on, we're allowed to be worried. You are 100% allowed to be worried. But before we gather up all of our torches and pitchforks and go down there and start yelling at them and burning armies of unpainted dark elves on our gardens to really intense music, let's remember that previous things have come before. And let's be honest, nothing can fuck the game up more than the Flesh Eater Court's Allegiance already has. So I'm kind of interested to see it. Also, like, there are times where like you look at things like destruction, like the ogres and stuff like that, and beast claw raiders. I totally see them allying with stuff. It could be potentially like specific units, like the old regiments of renown, which would be fucking awesome. So let's not freak out too much, and then go absolutely crazy. Yeah, flesh eater courts do not need allies. They don't need like just let's just keep flesh eater courts like in their own little corner. We can talk about them later if we really feel like it and really need to. But yeah, it seems like it was decided. So I will be drinking this lovely Australian rosé, and it's sparkling. So here we go. This is what we're doing today. So thank you, chat, for that. So not drinking the whiskey, drinking this. What the fuck? Jesus, the top of this thing looks like some kind of space dildo, which is kind of disturbing. Fuck me sideways. This is not going to be satisfying to pop, which probably isn't something I should say about a dildo either, but let's see how the fuck this piece of shit comes off. All right. Okay, it's holding on pretty tight. Yeah, how long until this fires directly into my eyeballs and takes out all of my vision? I realize what this must look like down there as well from the bottom of the thing, but it's really not wanting to let go. Oh my god, it's not even a fucking regular thing. You got to do this weird twisty thing. Now I'm terrified that this is going to take out like a light or something. So let's try to pray that I don't lose an eyeball or some shit, because that would be bad. Also that it doesn't take out the internet or some other shit happens or whatnot, or blows a hole in the door, because we all know that I'm nice and cold here. I'm just living in fucking terror right now. It's Terror Village, population me. Oh, there we go. All right, nice. That was way more fucking complicated than it needed to be. Cheers, ladies and gentlemen. Lovely to have you here. Gives up in the name of whiskey. I was thinking about it, but I promised I would drink whatever you told me to. This is what I got told to drink. This is what I am drinking. Cheers to your health. Nemesis, been with us for 2 months, mate. I love you. Like having you here. Also, thank you for getting me really spastic fucking drunk the other day. So that was good. It's not bad. That's not bad at all. Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that right home. That's not too unpleasant. There we go. Just a little bit there. Now I was hoping to be drinking whiskey, so there's even some ice cubes in this. But this is what we're doing now. I'm drinking a delicious rosé. Delicious Australian rosé today is what I'll be drinking while we're discussing things. So hear that? That little bubble? Yeah, there we go. We're in a nice place. We're in a really, really nice... We're in a fancy place. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Australian Wargamer Down Under, the fancy edition, because we're obviously drinking some bubbles, so it's fancy. Cheers, ladies and gents. So delicious. Now let's talk about war dollies, shall we? We had a lot go on over the weekend. So we've got some results, we've got some stuff to talk about, got a few lists as well that I'd like to run down. Shout out to all the awesome people who got in touch and helped me find results and lists and everything like that, because it's awesome. And like for me, I only find the big ones, the ones that like fill up social media and come across. So like when people like hit me up with that kind of thing, it's really wicked. So if you do have an event, no matter how big or small, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to chat about it. If you can like let me know the top 3 placings or even some lists. If you're free and want to have a chat on air, I'm just frothy for events. Like I need to live vicariously through you all, because I obviously can't afford to travel everywhere all over the country. But with today's show, we got a couple. I want to talk about Riptide, which was down just outside of Seattle, I think. The Riptide GT. Don't quote me on it. Might have got it wrong. There's a lot of different stuff coming in. Slanesh looking strong, but I dig the Slanesh release. We'll talk about that in a minute as well. Fire Slayer's coming in with a big hit. Flesh Eater Courts still being fucking Flesh Eater Courts, but there are a couple of armies that are going to surprise you with some of our results. Now, the one set of results I don't have is from the Heat 2 over at Warhammer World. Mostly because they've been done, they've been discussed. If you want, check after this show, check the earlier show where Rob and Nathan, which was a couple of hours ago, they were speaking about those results. They got a lot more insight into the people running them and stuff like that. So yeah, we'll leave that to them. Yeah, Slanesh, I mean, look, let's be honest, Slanesh, you were pretty stoked about it regardless of what was going on. So yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to be worried about them. I love the shit they can do. There's literally really only one rule that I don't like of theirs, but everything else I'm all about. So I think it's real cool. I think Slanesh are going to be a real competitive army. Like we saw with the release of Gloom, the Gloom Spike Gits. Everyone was anticipating they were going to be super competitive, and they really kind of haven't been. They've had a couple of decent runs, but not to the extent that we expected. Skaven, I think, is obviously a really nice, it's a powerful book, but it's a balanced book, because we're seeing them do well, which is to be expected of a new army, but at the same time, they're not just shit mixing anyone who looks at them. You can still get a win over them. Slanesh, I get the feeling, is the same, right? They seem fun. They seem really, yes, 100%. Slanesh, they're fun. They're an exciting army to play. Reading their rules, I'm scared about playing against them, but I'm also excited to play against them because they've kind of, with Flesh Eater Courts, they definitely did the cool thing where they made the rules match the lore. And that was great, yeah? There's a reason that a lot of people love Flesh Eater Courts, even when they didn't have, when their stuff was in the old General's Handbook. They love Flesh Eater Courts because of the fact that their lore was wicked. They just didn't play like it. They matched their rules to their lore, but unfortunately, matching their rules to their lore meant that they're just fucking so overpowered that it's not funny. And the results support me. Like, the stats are with me, okay? I'm not saying this because I just, hate Flesh Eater Courts. I had a Flesh Eater Courts army, couldn't bring it with me. I love their lore, I love their stories. There's an image from the original Flesh Eater Courts battle tome, I don't know if it's still there, which was I think it's a sword sticking out of a pile of skulls, but in the background, the shadow that's being cast on a cave wall is some raggedy ass bone. And I love that idea that they see the sword, but the bone is what it really is, and they just beat you to death with it while they think that they're having some grand duel. I'm fucking all about it. But Slanesh kind of feels the same way. The only thing I don't like about Slanesh is that one ability they have where they can make units go last at the end of the combat phase. Now, I get that it's good, I get that it's tactical, but I mean, a Greater Demon does it on a 2-up, I believe, and it's a 4-up for any other hero. Now, that kind of, I don't think is cool. I don't like things that mess with that, because for me, the back and forward of the combat phase is one of the most tactical decisions that you have to make. The two biggest decisions, I reckon, that you have to make in a game of Age of Sigmar are whether you take or give priority when you win it, because I think that is where games are won and lost, when I think people jump at the chance to take it without looking at the table and really deciding, which is super, but I think it's really cool. I think it is a huge thing. I would hate to see the turn roll removed from the game. I think it's my favorite part of Age of Sigmar, the priority roll. You can be down on your luck and play for that double turn and get it and be back in the game, lose it and be fucked. You can play defensively to be ready for whatever solution, whatever roll comes up. And I think it's a sign of a great player who puts themselves in a position where they can capitalize on a double turn, but their opponent, if their opponent wins it, they won't have too much to do if they get it. Yeah, damn right. Gnome's Bane, you're 100% on it. You hit the nail on the head for me. And the back and forward of combat, because that, when you look across a battlefield and you're like, okay, well, I've got this fucking combat here, which is over an objective, so I'm getting the gold, right? And I'm sitting there going oh, I need to do that one first. But then I've got my general who's been tagged in a combat, and I'm really worried that I'm going to lose that one. So you're sitting there kind of trying to decide between those two, and then you've got a bunch of other combats where you might lose units, or you're like, okay, well, this one might mean I don't get the points this turn, but if I let them go first, they'll fuck that unit up who can't then take it later. I love it. I think activation choice is one of the most important things. I don't like that every single Slanesh hero can now fuck you up on a 4-up or a 2-up. I just think it takes some of the strategy away, especially if you're a Slanesh player and you throw a Greater Demon in and then you throw like 3 other heroes into combats, you got a real good chance of just sitting there and being like, well, sweet, I don't have to think about combat. I've effectively rolled a couple of dice and now I don't need to play the strategy of the phase. It's the same reason I don't particularly like it for Flesh Eater Courts. I like it for Deepkin though. Deepkin having that high tide ability to do it because it's 1 turn. And me as an opponent, I know that turn's coming. My opponent knows it's coming. And I love trying to mitigate that high tide turn for my opponent. I think it's really, really good. So yeah, I worry a little bit for that. Activation shenanigans of the future. Fuck it. I hate activation shenanigans. I'm not about it. I think that it removes an element of it. I kind of don't mind it in Iron Jaws for some reason. Maybe because smashing and bashing really suits their stuff. I just don't particularly like it with Slaanesh, and I don't like it with Flesh Eater Courts. It just doesn't tickle me right. I'm worried about it. But everything else in the Slaanesh book that they can do to fuck me up, it excites me. It gets me interested, and I want to play that game. I can't wait to play against some Slaanesh. So that's kind of cool. And like I've spoken about it before, I also just love the models. Those Slaanesh models are gorgeous. Master Blaster, the dude with the axe with the like whippy chick on his back, and their rules for like one of them attacks, and then at the end of the combat phase the other one attacks but gets to reroll. Like that's some cool level shit. I really like it. I'm all about what they've done so far. I think it's great. I love it. Like I said, the only thing I don't like is the knocking you back with the activation shenanigans. And because it takes away some of the strategy for me, the biggest points of strategy. So yeah, that's my soapbox. I'm gonna get off it because we got some stuff to talk about. Now the first thing that we're gonna have a little look at, some damn event results. Yeah. Oh wait, but before the event results. Okay, this is thank you, viewers of this show. I have to thank you for something as well. And that is that I told you a little while ago that I put some Nightbot commands in that Rob and Scrivo were unaware of. Now, I changed those because I just felt like keeping it fresh. So they're still, it's still exclamation point Dispossessed and exclamation point Legion. But I ducked on Nightbot just to have a look. Because we have hundreds of commands for the Honest Wargamer. Like if you put in exclamation point get the gold or exclamation point bully unit, it comes up and it'll show, like, give you a link to the workbook where that rule is so that you can find it. So if we're talking about, like, if we're covering an event, if we're talking about something and we use a phrase you don't understand, you can literally punch it into Nightbot and see the response. It's fucking wicked. But it also tells us what the most used commands are. And the 2 most used commands by the Honest Wargamer chat are now exclamation point Legion and exclamation point Dispossessed, which I think is fucking amazing. Yeah, sorry, Slanice, it's not, we don't have one for nudes. Maybe I'll get Scrivo to draw up something of us all like posing, like lovely little, like some kind of thing. And we'll put that in there and it'll be gorgeous. It'll be gorgeous, right? Like, we can make that happen, I'm sure. Nobody would ever bat an eyelid at that. We could be cam girls. We'd just be a whole lot of cam girls. But thank you so much for making exclamation mark the commands for Dispossessed and Legion the 2 most used commands by the Honest Wargamer chat across all of our shows. With a level of almost like 2 and 3 to 1. Which means that there's a lot of you sneaking those into other shows without them noticing because they haven't removed it yet. So thank you so much for making my dumb joke keep happening. Because what it means is that when Rob eventually discovers it, he's going to see just the level of use. And I can't wait for that. Especially because I'm on the other side of the world, so he can't get me. Which is a safe place to be unless, I don't know, they fly over or something and attack me. But so that's my thank you. Let's have a look at some fucking lists because we've got some sweet shit to talk about. All right, here we go. Recent results. These are the ones that I just want to quickly flag. The first was the Australian Championship Finals. Now, there were 2 heats in Australia. So 2 rounds. The top players got invited to the finals. And that's our results. Like right there. Number 1, Flesh Eater Quartz Gristlegore. Number 2, Flesh Eater Quartz Blisterkin. Third, fucking Seraphon. Can we please praise that human being? And fourth, KO. Which is just like that's cool. I dig that. Now, I think the field was only either 24 or 12 players or 16 players. I'm not sure if it was a particularly gigantic field. However, all these players to get there had to finish in the top half or the top third of their heat to make it into the finals. Now, obviously, it's not as big as the Warhammer World ones, which are like 100-player heats and then the big 90-player final or whatever it is. However, it's still definitely the top players that went to those events got in. Now, the heats in Australia were held in Brisbane, which it's not a particularly central location. There is an amazingly competitive environment in Brisbane, and some of the top players in the country are up there. So definitely this is a very competitive event. However, I guess the thing is that I don't know that the representation from anywhere outside of Queensland was particularly strong at this event or at any of the heats, because for them it's like it all happened kind of in a month, so they'd have to fly up to go to the heat and then fly back and then get another flight, which they didn't know they need to book. Much like Warhammer World in Nottingham, except I guess it's easier to drive a couple of hours than it is to fly. However, look, I'm not taking anything away from the generals and what they did. I know for a fact Gemma, who co-hosted one of the rounds at CanCon with us earlier this year, was second place there with her Blisterkin. I think she came first or second in her heat as well. She's one of Australia's top players. So you take that army and you put it in the hands of someone who is incredibly talented and knows what they're doing, and they're just going to shit mix everybody that they look at. I would love to flag though that fourth place Kharadron Overlords. Now this is unconfirmed, so it might just be a little bit of hobby gossip. So put on your gossip hats. But I think that I heard that the fourth place Kharadron Overlords player beat Gemma, so beat the Flesh Eater Courts in round 1, but then they both went 4-1, and her for and against was better for kill points or whatever the decider was. So for what it's worth, Kharadron Overlords that came fourth beat the second place Flesh Eater Courts army. So let's all just give a quiet little bit of a round of applause for that KO player. Obviously still holding a flame for that army, and hopefully doing some good there as well. Now the big one there for me is that Seraphon came in third. Like, fuck, that's amazing. Huge credit to that. And I don't know, I tried to get a copy of these lists and I couldn't. I'm really sorry. Huge credit to that Seraphon player, because that is like, look at the top 2 places. That's a competitive finish for Seraphon. And then I really like Seraphon. I have a Seraphon army, and the thing I like most about them is that their summoning, I think, in all of Age of Sigmar is the most fair. And if you disagree with me, sound off in the comments, because I would love to know in the chat who you think has the best summoning out of all the different armies, because obviously there's a lot of different ways to do it, right? But the thing is, it's just, oh yeah, sorry, and Dad Hammer rightly pointing out that the KO dude is not Kron. So it's obviously another great KO playing Australian. A Kharadron over Australian or something like that. But the summoning for Seraphon, you have to sacrifice spells. So for every spell that your Slann doesn't cast, you get summoning points that you can then bank to summon down the line. Which means that to summon for a Seraphon army, if you're not aware, you have to sacrifice your spellcasting ability of one of the best spellcasters in the game. And that's how you make points up to summon, which I think is fucking awesome. Like, if you think about any of the other armies with summoning, Flesh Eater Courts just get it. Cool. Legions of Nagash return units that are killed for 1 command point as long as the general's alive and within range of a graveyard, blah, 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 blah. Still pretty fucking good. There's not really a trade-off there. Your unit's dead and you get it back. Meanwhile, you're restoring wounds to those units the whole time anyway. Yeah. Tzeentch gets summoning for spells being cast in the game, which is what they want to do. So you're getting rewarded for doing what your army does really well. Doesn't seem to make sense. And Khorne, they get it when units, they get their blood tithe points when units die, which is what happens in a game, and being that they are a combat death orientated army, that's what they want to happen anyway, so you're just naturally going to get those. Nurgle get them for having models on the board in places and for summoning other trees, which they get one for free, so there's not really a downside for Nurgle either. There's just, like, looking at all the other summoning in the game, I find them to be really, really supportive of the army's playstyle, whereas Seraphon is very detrimental to the army. And I love that. I like that the army's got to make sacrifices to summon stuff. I think every army should be like that. I like Slaanesh, just wounding shit and receiving wounds. That will happen over the course of gameplay anyway. Yeah, or charging, or moving, or doing whatever the hell your little extra bonus depravity stuff is. So I dig Seraphon. I love seeing them there because I think at the moment, for me, Seraphon are one of the most balanced armies. They've got like good balance of points to ability, of save to durability, everything. I just love them. I love them for how balanced they are. So I love seeing them in third. Credit to Seraphon players out there, because I think you've got the hard shtick because you have an incredibly balanced army in a very unbalanced meta at the moment. Love seeing them there. Also, just a big, warm, wet, rubbery hug for KO. They're inside those rubber suits. They can't breathe really well. They're sweating everywhere, but they came in fourth in a very competitive field. However, Flesh Eater Courts coming in number 1 and 2 surprises no one. No one should be surprised. That's where Flesh Eater Courts are, and that's where they belong, because they're fucking great. Let's not take it away. They are great. They're just fucking way above anything else. And it's a little bit disappointing because I'm now hearing a lot of people who are switching to other armies to be competitive against Flesh Eater Courts. That said, Flesh Eater Courts last week took out Border Wars, which was won by Chris Welfare. We looked at his list last week. He was taking a Feast Day list, so not Gristlegore or Blisterkin. And he won a gigantic fucking metal sword. Like, the first place trophy was a big metal sword. I should say, if you're ever listening back to one of these shows on the podcast, or you're just listening to it, you will randomly hear slurping noises, and that is me drinking, because I'm a high-functioning alcoholic, and that's what I need to keep moving in life. But yeah, the prize was just a gigantic sword. Yeah, Dadhammer, you're right there, man. The problem with Seraphon at the moment is Saurus and Saurus Cavalry. Everything else in that the entire side of their stuff is pretty good, pretty well pointed. They're just not great. I think Saurus will get its second wound, much like Fireslayers did, and then they're good to go. And I think Saurus Cav just need maybe even an extra wound or a points drop. I don't know that they need more oomph. I don't know that Saurus particularly need to get better. They're just not worth it for their points at the moment. So if they were to have all of them to have an extra wound, if all your Foot Saurus and all your Cavalry Saurus had an extra wound but stayed at the same points, suddenly they're not too bad. They don't need to be amazing in combat because you've got, I like the Seraphon stuff is all about being purpose bred, right? Like they breed things specifically in their ships. They speed up or slow down the breeding cycle depending on what they need. So I like the idea that the Saurus are just kind of like bred to be effectively these shiny, scaly, muscle fucking shield walls that hold the line while everybody else, oh hi Groovy, how you doing baby? While everybody else like does the damage, or the Bastiladons shoot over the top, or magic blast stuff away while they break against the shield wall of the Saurus. Like, I don't know if they need to be more damagey and outputty. I just want them to be worth their points so that they're worth taking. And I think that they need that second wound to make them up there. Just like they did with Fireslayers. I mean, you look at that and immediately it changed them from being these annoying, like units that were kind of frustrating to suddenly we're seeing Fireslayers in a much different light. They're way better. So yeah, I think they could do that with Saurus to bring them in line. But okay, actually, I'll put the call out. What other armies do you think are really well balanced at the moment in the game? Like balance of points to abilities and everything like that. Skaven not so good right now. No, Skaven are great. Agora. Don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I'll try to get it right. Skaven are great, yeah. Buried in unfinished models. Yeah, that's fair. Skaven are really, really good. The one thing that I don't know for Skaven that is... the one thing that we're not seeing... We're seeing them do well, but we're also seeing them do terribly, right? And that's because, and that's what you want. It's a book that a really talented player can look and work and put a list together, and it can be a really competitive, really tough to beat list. But if they're matched against someone who knows what they're doing and make mistakes, someone can take advantage of it. Flesh Eater Courts, like I was actually just speaking to Mr. Gammy, who is probably Australia's most beautiful man. I'll say that. He's Australia's most beautiful man. We had him on the stream at CanCon. Everybody just wanted to see more of him because he is gorgeous, both body and soul and War Dolly experience. I was talking to him the other day and we were having a chat about how we've both played games against people with Flesh Eater Courts who are perhaps playing them for the first time or have only played a couple of games or are very new to Age of Sigmar. And turn one, they suddenly put turn one they go 600, 700 points up above you. So they're playing with 700 points more than you like that from the start of turn one. And their abilities to just do damage before you have a chance and take units off the board before they can do anything, it's real tough. So I think that's the problem with Flesh Eater Courts is it's very hard. You look at like Skaven, right? Skaven you can play well, but you got to work to play them well. Flesh Eater Courts, you don't have to work to play them well. Now, that's not saying, I'm not taking anything away from talented gamers who play Flesh Eater Courts. They know what they're doing. I also think, and this was another point that the most beautiful man in Australia, Mr. Gammy, brought up, was that it's actually real rough at the moment on Flesh Eater Courts players who started playing them because they liked the background and they liked the fiction for them. Because suddenly their army is overpowered and everyone thinks they're a jerk for taking like a top tier army. So I think that and if you are playing Flesh Eater Courts, like take the strong shit. It's there. It's like someone gave you a deodorant can, a lighter, and then a box of plastic army men and said, whatever you do, don't set them on fire because that's poor form. It's like you just gave me fire and a flamethrower. I'm going to have this blow up in my hand before I stop. Sorry, that was just my little tangent. Agora, don't know if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. I dig Skaven. I actually love Skaven at the moment. I love their book. I love everything about them because of that. Because they're a nice, balanced, competitive game that when I play it, if I get beaten by them, I feel like I got beaten by someone who took me apart really well. If I look or I made mistakes that I really should have seen through. If I beat them, I feel like I had to work to do it. I think Skaven are a really balanced army. The only thing that unbalances them for me is that Warp Vortex. It is way too easy to cast because consistently a Skaven player will get it off on a 6. So they need to roll it because it's an 8 to cast. You can get +1 from your general trait, Mastery of Magic. You get +1 for Arcane for being next to one of your warp holes, which you get for free. So you just put 1 in both deployment zones to guarantee that you're getting it. And then, so you need a 6 to get it off with potentially 3 dice picking the 2 highest. You can cast it from outside of Dispel range and still affect stuff. And this is the bit that I hate the most. It goes off twice before your opponent has a chance to dispel it. It goes off once when you cast it and once in your movement phase. So I don't like that. I think that it's a little bit too strong for 100 points. The Everblaze Comet you can walk away from. You can get out of range and then just ignore it because it's only got a 5-inch pulse after that first one goes off. The Warp Vortex actively stops you from escaping it unless you unbind it, but you need to roll a 9 to unbind it, which is quite unlikely. I'm not... Groovy, sorting out your studio and buried in unfinished models. Nice place to be. Nighthaunt? Yeah, okay. I'd say Nighthaunt are quite balanced at the moment. I'd agree. Sorry, I'm going back in the chat because I missed a lot of stuff when I was caught up in my little rant there about Flesh Eater Courts. Can you tell that I'm triggered a little bit by Flesh Eater Courts? Nighthaunt, I dig. The only thing I don't like is that there's a lot of 4-up unrendable saves in Nighthaunt. And for me, that is a really strong ability. Like a 4-up. I mean, let's not talk about ethereal amulets on zombie dragons. That's fucking a different level. But a 4-up unrendable save when it's really easy to get reroll 1s makes them pretty durable for an army that can easily bring models back. And that's why why do we see multiple units of 30 Grimghast Reapers in most death armies? regardless of whether it's Legions in Nagash or Nighthorn. It's because that is really strong. I think for the most part they're quite balanced outside of that, but that for me is their one little thing that sets them out. Gits seem balanced. Yeah, I'd agree. Hypnocracken, I reckon Gits are balanced, which is probably why we're not seeing them hitting the top tables that often, because they are balanced, which means they've got strengths and weaknesses, and you either need to play well to overcome your weaknesses or your opponent will take advantage of them and get past them. I'd agree with that. I think they got a couple of bits and pieces that are a bit like super strong, but nothing that's particularly rank. Yeah, no, I'm gonna put it out there. I reckon Seraphon and Gits, they make it onto the balance scale. I just feel filthy if I take more than one Arch Regent. Look, Gnome's Bane, mate, the Arch Regent is fucking amazing, and he lets you bring a whole lot more points to the battlefield. If I had a Dispossessed unit that turn one I could be like command point of free because I'm standing next to a terrain piece, and add like a whole unit of 30 Iron Breakers to the battlefield, or 10, 15, 20 Iron Drakes, I'd take it every time. So like, there's nothing wrong with taking a busted Flesh Eater Courts list. Absolutely nothing wrong with taking it, because it's there, the rules are there, you have access to it. It is not unfair to do it. What I think needs to happen is it needs to be balanced, maybe in the next General's Handbook, maybe in the next points update, because at the moment, the fact that a 400 point Ghoul King on Zombie Dragon or Terrorgeist can go into the 1200 point Corn Duty Dude on Dragon and kill it outright before it has a chance to attack after summoning 170 points of Crypt Flayers is fucked. So effectively, that 400 point dragon is only a 230 point dragon, and it killed 1200 points of dragon before it could fight. Like, that's not good maths. So LLV, if you're in the chat, tell me what the maths is on that, because I feel like it's bad. Stormcast Eternals, not too strong. Stormcast Eternals are okay. There are a few little bits and pieces that that maybe are or were a little bit abusable. I'll say they're okay. They're okay. They're not at the level of balance that it makes them on the list with Seraphon and Gloomspite Gits. Sorry, I just realized that the heat vent for my system was blowing directly onto the whiskey, and I didn't want to particularly warm it up. Not that I'm drinking whiskey. For those who joined us late, the chat got to decide what I was drinking today. I'm just about due for a top-up, and the chat decided that I was drinking Yellowtail Sparkling Rosé wine. And because I don't have wine glasses, I'm drinking it out of a whiskey cup. Yummy. Oh, it's a boy. Okay, sorry about that. A little bit overfull. I'm not going to do a shoey. Sorry, just catching back up on the chat. It's nice having him since Grand Alliance death. Yeah, people have had Flesh Eater Courts for ages, and it's shit. They cop it a little bit. Definitely someone's there because of the love of the law. Yep. Not only happy because of what you said, a lot of people now. Yeah, and that it's unfair, I guess, and that's the hard thing. We got to find the balance. I've met some lovely Flesh Eater Courts players. They've pushed my fucking poo in. That doesn't mean that they're bad people. It means that there's bad things. It does seem that I don't want to give up my work of demons. Also, I guess the flip side is rolling a 1 on your demon units with their banners and then getting D6 back and not failing Battle Shock. Like, rolling a 1 on your Battle Shock is already good. Like, if that icon was, if you roll a 1, none flee from Battle Shock, that's awesome. But then also you get D6 back, that's fucked. Like, it's like rewarding you for doing well. And like, if I shot a unit to death and then it was like, oh, well, if you shoot a unit to death, you can shoot again. It's like, hey, there you go, double down. Those especially to call it Slanai, have gone for Slanai, you've gone from like Zinch. You went from wanker to now hipster. I like where Zinch is now. They're a little bit more balanced. They're not as fucked as they used to be because they're now doing things on unmodified 6s as opposed to 6 or more. It's great. It's good. It's lovely. Also, you can't cheese it with all of the different command abilities. That's very. Started because I love the Terrorgeist model, and they got back around now. I'm the bad guy. Yeah, Gnome's Bane. Sorry, dude. You are the bad guy. Like, to be fair, you're the bad guy. However, we need bad guys. Like, how fucking boring would the movie of Age of Sigmar be without some bad guys? How boring would a tournament be without that person who's just shit mixing everybody and the plucky upstart who takes them down or loses to them and then comes back next tournament and tries? We need people doing that. But yeah, I think demands a bit more responsibility than the overall game experience. Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens with Flesh Eater Courts. Sorry, I'm just catching up on the chat. Dad Hammer, Scourge Privateers perfectly balanced with a 50-50 win rate. Yeah, okay. You know what? If we want to break it down on the stats, you're 100% right, mate. Like 50-50 is bang on the money, which means that they're perfectly balanced. It's good. I think you probably need to be a little bit more. Like, I would say Scourge Privateers might need a little bit more to be getting up there, but yeah, can't argue with the stats. As LLV points out, you can't argue with maths because it's pretty much there. I'm quoting you to my friends, then you gave me the go-ahead. Mate, I gave you the go-ahead. Take the fucked units. They're there. The points are there. You can take them. And you really should, because the other thing I would say, though, is then give that feedback back to Games Workshop. Send it in and be like, hey, I'm playing Flesh Eater Courts. No one wants to play me. I think I'm not a shitto, so it might be the army. But let's also remember that if you're not in a competitive environment, maybe don't take stuff that fucks people up. I have a problem with playing against Staunch Defender Stardrake. Yeah, fair enough. Staunch Defender really made Stormcast different, like a different thing for a very long time. But I mean, they still weren't everywhere. It's more when they had busted things that Stormcast were in a bad place, like when they could drop 30 Liberators into combat, like just deploy them on the table into combat and you couldn't do anything about it. Yellowtail Sparkling out of off. Yeah. Hey, mate. Knock knock, who's there? I'm drinking Yellowtail Sparkling on the other side of the world. Now in Australia, Yellowtail is just about everywhere. But over here, it's been like not hard but tricky to find. And I don't usually / ever drink it. So I'm living the high life, right? Like, could we be any more fancy? This is no longer the honest wargamer. This episode is the fancy wargamer because we're drinking wine out of a whiskey tumbler. Cheers, ladies and gentlemen. But okay, so we're feeling Zinch. Zinch 2.0 is going to be... Yeah, well, look, maybe, hopefully, when Zinch 2.0 comes out, it'll be better. So yeah, Slow Nice, take it easy, mate. Have a good one. Lovely to have you here, even if you are excited about playing an army that fucks with the activation sequence in the combat phase. But again, fair enough. It's there. Use it. It makes you a bad person, but a bad person that I will love. Go again, Agara. You've got a question. How many relics can a hero have? Like artifacts? Is that what you mean? Because if it's artifacts, it's only one. Yeah, yeah, fuck. If I can find, maybe I could get a goon bag of Fruity Lexia, and I'll just like hang it off the back of the little goddamn elevator that I'm recording out of. Yeah, so artifacts are only one. You can give me mortal wounds. Yes, you can, Slanice. You can give me a fuck ton of mortal wounds because that's what you're good at. Or a whole lot of damage one attacks, which I also dig. Iron Jaws are nice and balanced. You know what? I was actually listening to the show earlier by Rob and Nathan, and they were talking about how people get excited when they realize they've been matched up against Iron Jaws. And I kind of think, like, to be honest with you, I get the same thing. When I'm matched up against Iron Jaws, I get excited. But I don't think it's what people think for. I reckon a lot of people feel like they get excited for playing Iron Jaws because they think they can win the match. I think the reason that people get excited to play Iron Jaws is for two things, right? The first is that they feel like they've got a chance to win the match. Yeah? You rock up against Flesh Eater Courts. I'm rocking into that game going be like, I probably lose this. Before we even roll dice, I probably lose this game. And I know that. When I rock up against Iron Jaws, Free People, stuff like that, I'm thinking to myself, like, I got a chance. I could win this game. Or Seraphon. I love playing against Seraphon and things like that because I'm like, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a hard game, but I can get the win on this one. If I play right and I maybe force my opponent to make some mistakes, put some pressure, bully them around the board, that kind of thing. So I think Iron Jaws, people get excited to play because one, they feel like they've got a chance. They feel like though Iron Jaws are powerful, there's nothing in there that's overpowered, underpointed, or abusable, except for the Infinity Wire, which we have learnt through Alex at West Coast GT, is a beautifully abusable ability. Doesn't win you every game, but it gets you to 4 out of 5, and that's pretty fucking good. Credit Alex for the Infinity Wire, just as Infinity War Endgame came out. Like, credit on that one. That was a beautiful combination. But also the other thing I think is that if you play against someone who's playing Iron Jaws, I'm kind of excited because I'm like, sweet, this person is taking an army that they like. Like, nobody plays, like, there are people playing Flesh Eater Courts because they were busted and bent out of shape and were like, I can fucking ruin everyone. No one's playing Iron Jaws for that reason. They're playing it because they love the models, or they love the play style, or they get excited by green skins. Whatever the reason, I don't think I've ever had a bad game against an Iron Jaws player. Like, I'm thinking back, I've played a lot, don't think I've ever had a bad game against them because they're fun to play. They've got the right attitude. If you're playing Iron Jaws, you're a fucking legend. I'm putting it out there right now because you're doing it in a fun way and you're having a good bit of fun. However, I do agree that they could maybe have a little bit more versatility as an army so that we'd see like some different stuff. I'd love to see a little bit more, like at the moment we got the combat out of them, right? And we got the damage and things like that. I would love to see a little bit more versatility and flexibility so we see some more shit out of them. Slaanesh a backup plan if Locust fails. Yeah. Slaanesh, at the moment, they have a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, we were Portigue? Is it like a Montague? Are you perhaps related to Romeo in some way? Talking about the Locust and then the end of combat phase thing, the backup plan if Locust fails. We spoke about that earlier. I don't like it. I love everything else in the Slaanesh book. Just to recap, some of you already heard this. Just a quick recap. I love just about everything in the Slaanesh book except for that ability to push units back at the end of the combat phase, because my two most favorite things about Age of Sigmar are the priority roll and the activating turn by unit by unit in the combat phase. I hate anything that fucks with those two things. They are sacrosanct, they are sacred to me in a special place. Slaanesh, you're fucked for messing with it. Beastclaw Raiders, nah, not balanced. Beastclaw Raiders are way underpowered and a bit like Iron Jaws. I'd love to, I think if Ogre Kingdoms were wrapped into there, if like Bulls and Lead Belchers and Noblars, only because then we'd see more flexibility, we'd see different lists, we'd see fresh stuff. At the moment, Beastclaw Raiders, for me, you seem to see the same lists, the same couple of combos over and over and over again. I love them. I love their lore. I love their background. I love their models. I love everything about Beastclaw Raiders. I've loved like Ogre Kingdoms since the world that was, probably because I mainly play Dispossessed, which are this big. I have an Ogre Kingdoms, I have a Gutbusters army that I painted last year back home in Australia that I'm going to get out here so I can play it. Probably because I just wanted to paint bigger goddamn models, but I love the army. I think it's awesome. I just want more flexibility. I want more options. I want to rock up to the table against a Beastclaw Raiders player and see something different, right? Like, that'd just be fucking fun to get into, instead of like kind of the same units just put together with a different number and be like, oh, okay, so you got this many this, and you got this many this, and this many this. Yeah, sweet. The Charybdis is so bad. Okay, Nut Chip. First of all, excellent handle. I don't know who you are. I never want to know you as any other name other than Nut Chip. That is an amazing name. The Charybdis is so bad. It is terrible for its points, but hot damn is it not a sexy model. Like all those little sucker tentacle stabby jawry mouth things. I'm about it. It reminds me of Hercules, the animated series with the like Hydra thing, and you've got to cut off the... Did anyone else play that game? We have to cut off the heads and then two more grow out and you have to keep cutting off the heads. Hercules, the old, I think it was Nintendo 64 game. No, it wasn't. It was before that. Super Nintendo maybe. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I think that there's places for beautiful models. They just got terrible rules and terrible points at the same time. With a battalion, okay, so it's worthwhile in the battalion. Tomb King Tristan, sorry mate, I hope you're still here for me to tell you that I love you. Wonderful to have you in, even if it was only for 30 seconds to say that I rule. Cheers, I will drink some classy wine. Some classy bubbling rosé just to say cheers, Tim King Tristan. He did pretty good over the weekend comparatively in the field, so congratulations. Dad Hammer, yeah, it's. I dig Beast Claw. I love them. I love the models. I love everything about them. Their background. I even love their points. I think they're quite fairly pointed. They just need more flexibility. Or like the fact that man-eaters, you have these sexy models. You have really interesting rules. They're not busted. They're well balanced. But man-eaters have to be allied into a Gutbusters army, or they have to be allied. Like, it's just silly. You've got these awesome models that you can't really take. So yeah, excited about Slanesh. You remember the movie? Okay, yeah, we got a couple of people who played the game. Sorry. Thanks, Tomb King. Sorry, you're still here. 3-2 with Tomb Kings in Heat 2. Solid. Does that mean you made it into the final, or do you need to try again to make it into the final? I'd be really excited to see some TKs get into there, because you're beautiful people. You deserve to be represented. You've got some wonderful lore. Cheers to you. No, mate, take it easy. There was basically, for those who didn't get the reference just before, there was a really hard, old school, like arcade style platformer, and that was the thing, the one that they based the game. They based the movie, the cartoon Disney movie, on a game. There was a level where you had to beat the Hydra as a boss, and you just had to keep cutting its head off. Anyway, that level always reminds me of a Charybdis, because it's like gross and tentacly and kind of grabby, and stuff like that. That's a really long segue where we just talked about the armies that we thought were balanced, for those of you who got in there a little bit late. But the other one that I want to talk about. So sorry, we've spoken about balance. We've spoken about Seraphon. We've spoken about armies that we think are balanced. And let's be honest, we don't. Tomb King Tristan with the flex there. Yours are better painted. Yeah, there we go. Nutchip enjoying your name too, mate. I'd love to know the story behind where Nutchip came as a handle. That's a good handle. It comes out of probably a weird place. Cheers to your name. That sounds like something from Game of Thrones. We're not talking about Game of Thrones. No spoilers, no nothing. I haven't seen it yet. You're going to make Lion Rangers great again. I dig Lion Rangers. I dig the Lion Chariot. There's so many cool models out there, right, for all these different things. That's why I can't wait for an expanded Grand Alliance stuff, because there are so many little mini alliances that I think together or under certain things are going to be fucking sexy. I can't wait. Excuse me. The downside to drinking bubbles like you drink whiskey is that it obviously creates a little bit of gas. If they had a hero, something they could do. Yeah. In Slanesh practice game, sort of 900 points. Where's that? What the opponent wants as well. Jesus Christ. So sorry. Bordegue, 85. Mate, are you saying that in a 2,000 point game, you summoned 900 points off the back of depravity points? I just want to confirm that that's a thing. Tomb King Tristan, go get some sleep. Or get some sleep, or go to work, or do whatever you need to in your time zone. Lovely to have you drop in, even if it was only for a moment, mate. I as a dispossessed player at heart, I dig anyone who just staunchly stands by their army and refuses to shift. So you're a beautiful man. Go take your sleep. Have a good one. Okay, yep, we have confirmation. He summoned 900 points, which means that you had just about double what your opponent had on the table. I think it's possibly abusable. We'll see if it gets maybe tamed down. I think, do I need some nut chips with that rosé? Is that chips made out of nuts? Like, as in, like actual testicles? Or is that made out of... I don't know. There's just so much that I'd like to unpack in that. And we don't have time, because we've got stuff to talk about. And what I want to talk about right now is the one little shufti over from where we are right now, which is the AOS the Australian Championship finals that we were talking about. Flesh Eater Courts taking out 1 and 2, as expected, to be fair. And Gristlegore and Blisterkin being in the 1 and 2, which are kind of the top 2, as most people see them. Chris Welfare from the Mortally Wounded podcast, which I'd recommend you check out. He is an incredibly talented gamer, a very smart man, has a wonderful podcast with a bloke named James Mabry, who is a really skilled painter and all into the background and the lore. The two of them together make a lovely duo. I'll try to get him on the show at some point. Chris Welfare and James Mabry from the Mortally Wounded podcast. Check out their shit. It's great. He ran Flesh Eater Court's Feast Day and took out Border Wars, which was a big Australian event last week. He won a sword, an actual metal sword, and sent me a video where someone is lobbing half of a watermelon at him and he literally cuts it in half with his trophy sword in midair. It was the coolest moment ever, and I'm really now disappointed in every Slayer Sword winner that I always see a photo of them holding it. I never see a photo of them cutting fruit in half like some kind of medieval fruit ninja. So credit there, big credit. But I also want to talk about the Riptide GT. Now I'm going to try and have a chat to the TO of that one over the course of the week. I'm going to record that and then I'll roll that into next week's episode show, whatever the hell you want to call it. And we'll have a chat about the event, about how it all played out. If you want to check out the live stream, the boys from Dimensional Cascade, which are right here on Twitch, or they're also on YouTube, you can check out their stuff. They have I spoke about it last week, they have the most amazing battle mats. Just check their shit out for their battle mats. They are, and when I say that, they're tactical. They've got like measurements. You know what? Watch last episode's show. I wax lyrical. I give them a pretty solid low 5 about, as in like a low 5 for those who know what that means. It's not like it's a low 5, it's a bad thing. A low 5 is a good thing. Anyway, I love what they do. I love what they make. And they do really cool like stream battle reports. They streamed the event. Check it out after this. Stay with me now. I love you. Never leave me. I'm a terrible ex. Please don't abandon me. But I want to talk about the Riptide GT. Now, first we got coming in Ideneth Deepkin. They are a strong army. We'll have a look at the list. I've got the lists for these three as well. The one thing I will say, for those who might have been at the Riptide GT or are watching this back, now what this is, the first, second, and third I have here for the Riptide GT is solely based on the gaming score. Now, this doesn't have any of the secondary scores like painting or I believe sportsmanship or gamesmanship added into it. So as it stands, this is only off the back of gaming because I don't have the other data at the moment. But the cool thing was like just looking at these results. Now, Deepkin are competitive, but since the rise of the Flesh Eater Courts and Skaven, we haven't seen as much of them in the winner's circle. Legion of Sacrament, a bit the same. They're still a bit, they really dominated for a while. Legion of Sacrament was all over everything. When we look at the lists, you'll see why this list did well. But it's nice to see a return here. And Fire Slayers. Now, in 2 weeks, since the Fire Slayers have had a new book, right? We have seen Fire Slayers take out an event and podium at an event. And reading their book, I don't know that it's as amazing. It's balanced. It's not overpowered, so I like seeing them there. Agora going a bit, fuck me, 5:34 a.m. Mate, just stay up with the show for another hour, roll on into your day. You'll be fine. No, seriously, get some sleep. You shouldn't do that. Like, your human body needs sleep. You can't fuck it up. Happy to see Deepkin take another. Yep, exactly. Nut chips is a real bag of chips made out of nuts. I will Google that. You know what? I'm going to Google that right now. Let's find out what a fucking nut chip is. Nut chips. All right. Let's have what? Mr. Crisper's nut chips. Blue Diamond almond baked nut chips. What the fuck is the rest of the world doing? These are not things that you should make chips out of. Oh God, that has emotionally scarred me. I can never unsee that. Yeah, okay, good. Dad Hammer, yes, Border Wars. I looked at some at the Border Wars lists. I didn't get I didn't go into fourth. Fuck, there was a mixed destruction army in fourth. I'll look at it next week. Maybe I'll pull it up and have a look. Sorry. Portigue talking about, we were just discussing how he summoned 900 points with Slanesh out of depravity points, and it was a large brick of Storm Fiends that just fed a shit ton of depravity, which is, they love multi-wound models. I mean, that's not bad. You work for a bunch of good thing they didn't try and use it like the shadow. Oh my God. Sorry, are you, Groovy, do we have the inside word here? Come on, because I love drama and I love gossip. But maybe I should put on like my news reporter hat or some shit like that. Are you saying that the Slayer sword couldn't actually slay anything? Like not even a watermelon? Is this a first? Are you bringing this to the Honest Wargamer as a first? Because like I'm about that. I love that. The 5-hour energy. Yeah, you don't need to sleep. You're fine. Night Agara. Have a good one, mate. Risky click of the week. Yeah, good. That's empty. Well, there we go. For those listening back, I went to take a drink. It was empty. Cheers, ladies and gents. Let's just top up that one a little bit there. Whoop. Keep going. Go on, treat yourself. Yeah, there we go. All right, so I want to have a look at the Riptide GT, and I want to have just a quick look at some of the army lists. Now, we're not going to go into them crazy. Portigue pointing out that if a Keeper of Secrets does nothing except die, you get 13 depravity points alone that can summon up to a 160 point hero. Just by dying. So not by doing any wounds, not by doing anything. It's fucking insane. The amount that they can do. Google more nut chips. Yeah, it's a very risky Google. At the moment, all I've got, and basically I saw chips. I don't want to see what the not safe for work option on Googling nut chips is. So I'm just going to love your name, think it's amazing, love you for being a 2-month subscriber. Thanks for sticking around for the second month after you saw us, because you obviously went, I like what these guys do. But I'm not going to look up the not safe for work nut chips. I don't need that. Cheers, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here. It was a Slayer Sword winner who sold his Slayer Sword. Okay, yep. And said it was shit. That's disappointing. Because for me, the only reason that I wanted to ever potentially win a Slayer Sword, not that I will, would be to protect myself from the inevitable zombie apocalypse. And I knowing that it would not be able to do that is kind of disappointing. I'll see if I can get a copy of the video of Mr. Chris Welfare from the Mortally Wounded podcast slaying a watermelon with his trophy sword, because it's fucking great, right? Like we win. I love a trophy that you can drink out of. I am at a recent Mario Kart themed pub crawl drinking competition. Credit to those in the chat that might have been there. I did a shot out of the trophy. Now it was dusty and dirty, and it definitely didn't taste like I should have been drinking it. But fuck, it was fun. So I love a trophy that is functional. Whether it's I won at an event a couple of years back. I won like a drinking horn, like a goat horn, with the title engraved in it, and so I could like drink straight out of the trophy. If I can put alcohol in a trophy or kill something with the trophy, that's what I want. So events in the future, you know what? The Honest Wargamer does reviews of the toilets, the hand dryers, and now I'm going to review trophies. And I put it out there, events, show me a trophy that I can do something with. Can I rob a bank with your trophy? Can I get real drunk with your trophy? That's what I'd like to know. Slanesh told him in the Realm of Life. Oh, God, sweet God, no. Slanesh from the Realm of Life would be a nightmare. All those extra wounds. Oh, God. So zombies are softer than watermelons. So if the sword can handle a hit to a watermelon, logically it can deal with a zombie. Good, yeah. I love that. Just in the background in the chat, if you don't know what's going on, where there's a background discussion about how to make, what are they called? Dad Hammer. I'm so sorry, I forgot the name of your allegiance. I blame it on the bubbles. It's not me. I love you. I love Scourge Privateers. I've got it. I nailed it. I did it before I even checked the chat. You've probably already said it in the chat, but I got it before you did. Scourge Privateers. There's a little background conversation of how to make Scourge Privateers more competitive, or what things could be added in to make them better. And I just fucking love Dad Hammer. I'm all about the fact that you're sitting there just being like, nah, there is nothing we could ally in that would make us better. Because just like a Dispossessed, you're like, I am all I need. You're like a beautiful Instagram post looking in the mirror and telling yourself, I am enough. And damn right Scourge Privateers are enough, because you're a bunch of elf pirates. Like, fuck off. Nobody else needs to be anything. I got a dad hammer. I remembered it. Please don't be sad in the chat. I love you. I love you. I just want to tickle your beard and hug you again like we did at CanCon and hold me and feel special. But let's move on, because I've waxed lyrical as I have so far about all of this. And what I'd really like to do is start to look at at Riptide GT, what we're looking at over there on the other side of the screen. I'd really like to talk about those lists that did well. Okay, here's the question. Do we want to start at the Deepkin and work our way down to the Fire Slayers, obviously end on the Dwarden, who are the superior faction? Or do we want to work from third up to first? Let's go from top to bottom. I feel like going from top to bottom. Sorry if you've commented in the chat and feel differently. I feel spun up by it, and that's what we're going to do. So we're going to start here. We're going to start with the first place getter, and I do want to flag this in gaming. Right? Gaming is what, like, I don't have there are obviously like best overall, best general, stuff like that. I don't have that. I only have the results for the gaming side of things, which is what I want to look at. So we're going to have a look at the Deepkin list that took out first at the Riptide GT. And it was this one right here, played by, I'm sure, the lovely Matthew P. Deepkin from Domhain, which, unless I miss my guess, is the mount riding enclave, so they get to reroll 1s to wound from attacks from mounts. Might be wrong, correct me if you're in the chat, anybody who knows about them. Couple of Soul Scries, which let them pop up from the side of the board. Tidecaster, who 100%'s job is to flip the tides, mostly just about more important than anything else that Tidecaster's doing. Minimum battle line, and then look right there, because the screen's gone backwards for some reason. We got 9 Morsar Guard, and then a unit of 12 Morsar Guard. Eel spam is a thing. It is alive and well. The thing I really like about this list is those 2 units of Eternal Guard down the bottom there. That's actually, for me, that's a real clever ally inclusion in this army. I think the one thing that for me, Deepkins struggle with is having a unit they can afford to leave on an objective and hold it. Because if you think about it, right, Reavers, the closer they get, the more shots they get, so that's how you get the points out of them. And they're good at like those mid-range objectives, like the mid-board objective where they can hold it and shoot off chaff or lighter units that threaten it. Thralls, for my money, are point for point the best battle line in the game. I will fucking fight you if you disagree with me. I think the Thralls are amazing. The fact that they get extra attacks against 1 wound models, they get extra damage against 3, 4, 5 wound models, whatever. Against high wound models, they get better. I just think Thralls, when you need them to clear chaff, can clear chaff. When you need them to take down a hero or a monster, they can take down a hero or monster. I love Thralls. They're really, really good. So the question being, like, in a Deepkin army, what can you leave on an objective? If you pull, like, Total Commitment, Battle for the Pass, something like that, Better Part of Valor, where you need to leave things on your objectives. Eternal Guard right there, they don't need to be in combat. They can just stand there, be on that objective, and for only a handful of points, I think they're 70, 80 points. Correct me if you're a Wanderers player and know it. I think they're 70 points. That leaves you with a really, really strong little baseline of 2 that can just hold it. So yeah, I dig it. I really like it. I love this list. It does lean heavily on eel spam, and those soul scries are there to pop them up. But it's the thing I like about this list taking first, or taking first in gaming points, is that this is a win condition list, right? Like, this list wins the game by its condition. I'm guessing that they didn't play Total Commitment as one of the battle plans. I'd love to see if it was there. I probably could check that. I'm not going to do it right now, but I probably could, because if it's there, it's even more impressive that this list did it, because those Soul Scryers would obviously take the eels and let them pop up 9 inches away from an opponent and then potentially increase their charge range. Oh no, never mind, different unit, not the Soul Scryer. With rerolls if you've got the command point popping up. 70 points, thank you very much, Dad Hammer. So I dig this list. I like that it's done well. It is the eel spam list. However, for it to take out a 5-game tournament means that it needed to have the Jiminy Juice in 5 games straight, and it did. So credit to this, it's done its work on that one, which like you can't disagree with, right? Like it took out the event, and the only thing I would say it probably potentially struggles with is that it's rocking minimum very glassy heroes. So if you potentially again, I'm sorry I didn't pull up the pack. I couldn't find the missions that were played, the battle plans that were played. I feel like on a hero-based battle plan like, say, Duality of Death or Three Places of Power, this list would struggle a little bit. But I mean, again, though, this is to add credit to Matthew's work. If he played either Total Commitment or Duality of Death, he fucking killed it with this. So credit to him, solid work. New and improved Jim 980. So Jim 980, you've now upgraded to Jimmy 1080. Welcome. It's lovely to have you. Is there possibly more robot parts of you? Is that the thing? Is that what's going on? But welcome. Lovely to have our lovely cyborg overlord Jimmy 1080 join the chat. Welcome, you weird part metal, part robot. At least 100 points better. Okay, yeah. So maybe like a little bit of robot in you, but not a whole lot. Just enough to set off airport scanners and get you patted down on the magic wand every time you try to travel. Jim 1080, if you are just joining us, this evening's drink is a sparkling rosé. At the very start, the chat got to decide what I'm drinking, and I am drinking a sparkling rosé. It's a yellowtail, and it's quite delicious. It's a little bit sweet for mine, but it's okay. So welcome if you are drinking with us. If you're playing the drinking game, which is where you need to match me for drink. Thank you for joining in the alcoholism of the Australian show, because obviously we do function quite high. Now what we're looking at right now, I will just flick back so those who have joined us a little late can see it. We're talking about the results of the Riptide GT. Now the Australian Championship Finals, which you can also see on your screen. First place was Flesh Eater Quartz Gristlegore. Second place was Flesh Eater Quartz Blisterkin. Third place was Seraphon, with a bonus fourth place being Cahadron Overlords. We're not really looking at that. I couldn't get access to the lists. And also, let's be honest, Flesh Eater Quartz took out first and second. They're two very talented players playing them, two very strong army lists from a very strong book that is like statistically overpowered at the moment. So what I want to look at is the Riptide GT, which is just out of Seattle, which geography has taught me is quite close to me. So I'm planning on getting down to Seattle to catch up with some of the locals down there, maybe play a tournament or do some stuff relatively soon. We're having a look at the lists that took out that event. So we just had a cheeky little look at the Ideneth Deepkin list that took out first. Now we're going to have a look at the Legion of Sacrament list that took out second. Now this was played by Alex G, Realm Shaish. Now those in the chat, without even looking at the rest of the list, why do you think a Death player chose the Realm of Shaish to be their realm? It's a real tough one. I mean, it's possibly for theme. Possibly. We'll see. Yeah. Oh, Jimmy 1080 mixing up a G&T right now. Great. Welcome to our wind down on this day, because that's where we need to be, in a comfortable, potentially boozy place. G&T classic. What gin are you using? Just out of curiosity. And is it just gin and tonic? Do we have some kind of mixer in there? Next week, picklebacks. Oh, fuck. Yeah, right. I got introduced to picklebacks. We'll talk about that later, maybe. Oh, God. Picklebacks are just like I'd heard of Nickelback, but the fact that there's a shot named after them is not something that should ever be. Anyway, it's dark. It's a terrible place to be, and it ruins a delicious drink of Jameson. So for Deep, can you put in a king with an ethereal amulet? Yeah, okay, right. Yep, so painting is boring, can't hang and just drink water. Yep, fair. The only thing that I think you shouldn't do drunk is convert if you're planning on using a hobby knife. I have done a little bit of damage to my thumb. Just because I didn't realize that as I was shaving back, I'm converting up a Cogfort army at the moment. Didn't realize as I was shaving back rifles that I was actually shaving off like the top layers of my thumb with every kind of like, so there's a little bit less of me on the left-hand side where I was like holding the model and then just went, didn't realize it. So don't knife drunk is the lesson there. Safety first, everybody. Dad Handler obviously nailing it. This list, choosing Shaiish, is clearly for the narrative choice, and definitely not because it lets you put an ethereal amulet on a vampire lord on zombie dragon, giving them a 3-up save that you can easily make a 3-up rerolling ones with Mystic Shield in a Legion of Sacrament list. It's definitely not to make an unkillable death monster that heals D6 wounds. Also, like, let's be honest, the pinions on a vampire lord on zombie dragon, meaning that I think turn 1 minimum move is 19, just like with 2 extra command points. So your minimum move, if you're 24 inches apart, you need a 5-inch charge with a reroll. If you want to put it in. But even then, you put it in, like, unless your opponent has a ton of mortal wounds, 3-ups rerolling 1, unlikely that you're going to struggle on that one. So I dig it. Obviously it's quite a competitive Legion of Sacrament list. Vampire Lord on a Nightmare, because like he gets his little horsey hoof attacks, which are lovely, rather than just going the flying move. The Guardian of Souls, whose job, and the Necromancers, whose jobs are obviously there to buff up the Grimghast Reapers, because, like, let's be honest, the battle line, 3 units of 5 Direwolves, we've seen it before, 60 Grimghast Reapers and Chronomatic Cogs with 2 extra command points for rerolls. So turn 1, you got 3 charge rerolls if you don't want to use a command ability, or you hold 1 back because you need to return a unit of Grimghast Reapers that you probably throw forward turn 1, summon them, 9-inch reroll, 7-inch rerollable charge with the cogs. I can see why this list did well. It's a very, very strong list. Stock of Graveguard. Yeah, definitely. The Grimghast Reapers are definitely because their Graveguard were out of stock, and not because Grimghast Reapers are point for point one of the best units in the game. Cogs to get to the... Yep, nut chips on it. Cogs to get to the other side of the table, or to pull units up from the underworld turn 1 and charge turn 1 on a 7. Ink... Oh my god, Jimmy 1080, are you drinking Ink Gin? From the... Is that the distillery in... Yeah, Moolumbar. Yeah. I had a bottle of it. I got it. I drank it. It was delicious. And I then left Australia and haven't been able to get another one since. I'm sorry. We're derailing the chat super quickly to talk about alcohol. If you can get yourself a bottle of Ink Gin by the Husk Distillery, if you want to sponsor me and send me gin, I'd love you. It is delicious. It's spectacular. You're from Moolumbar? I've been in Moolumbar heaps. Mate, what the fuck? We go way back, probably, or at least you and your town does. But that Ink Gin is just delicious. It's spectacular. And depending on how you mix it and do stuff, it changes color. It's beautiful. It's like one of those... It's an experience drink, right? Like, it's not only delicious, but you get to experience so much as you drink it. Oh, learning so much about my homies in the chat. Nut Chip, we've bonded over our mutual love of your name, which I assume you love your name. Jimmy 1080, upgraded from Jimmy 980. Obviously, we're drinking, like, we love the same booze. Gnome's Bane, but drunk conversions are where the best ideas come from. The idea is right, but probably not the execution. Like, we've all seen that Forge World weird, like pus baby that's just like a ball of green stuff with some limbs coming out, so who knows. But yes, so looking at this list, you can see that you got the spells and the Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon, and just about everything else is kitted out to buff either the Vampire Lord or the Grimghast Reapers and wipe your opponent off the table. You can see why this list did well, and it's what I was talking about before about the one thing that's not balanced in Nighthaunt, and it is even worse in Legions of Nagash, and that is Grimghast Reapers. A 4-up unrendable save, that's a little bit too far. If Grimghast Reapers were a 5-up save, I wouldn't have a problem with them. It's that you need to effectively, like, if you look at that unit with 30 models, you need to do 60 wounds to get past their armor save and kill that unit. Now let's remember that unit is returning models to the unit, or you need to do 30 mortal wounds. So you need to do 60 wounds to the unit to kill it, right? Then it's got a 6-up save after save, so 10 of those 60 are being saved. So you effectively need to do 70 wounds. Correct me if I'm wrong. I've had a lot of bubbles so far tonight, but correct me if I'm wrong. you would need to do, to guarantee you kill that unit with regular attacks, you'd need to do 70 wounds to it, 70 damage. I might be wrong. And then for 1 command point, you can return that whole unit to the table. So, and this is before you take into account how good they are in combat, their 2-inch reach, the amount of like attacks, rerolls, everything that they get. I just think that they're right on top. Oh no, man, you can get the gin in the States. Okay, tidy. Downside, I'm guessing, is the price. It's right there. Oh, 4 Pillars do an amazing gin as well. Like let's just wax lyrical about gin. But looking at this list, it's real clear why it did well. It is a real good list. Dimensional Cascade, welcome. I was just talking about how amazing your tables and shit are, and talking about the coverage from the Riptide. We're actually talking about lists from Riptide at the moment. Welcome to the chat. Plague Monks could kill the Reapers. Yeah, Nutchip, you're right on there, right? Yeah, they've got the potentially the number of attacks, but there aren't that many units in the game that could put 70 wounds on a unit and then put 70 wounds on it again when it's brought back for 1 command point. And again, the way I worked that out was because 30 wounds in the unit, you need to do 60 to get past a 4-up save, and then a 6-up death save, which means if you're putting 60 wounds onto them, they're saving 10 of those, because 10, 6, I could be really wrong. Anyway, 70, whatever. While scraping trolls. Is this Demcast? Is that more trolls for your army, or is that more trolls like are you redoing some of your trolls? Because your army is beautiful. It doesn't need to be touched. Well, it needs to be touched in a bad place by my Dispossessed for ruining a Dispossessed hall, but it doesn't need to be touched otherwise. But just looking at this list, you can see why it did well. It's got the bodies and the damage from the Grimghast Reapers. Direwolves are easy for flicking around onto terrain and picking up objectives after the Grimghast Reapers have cleared it. And it's a bit of a basic bitch move, but it's a good one. Just like I was saying, Flesh Eater Courts are fair to do it. Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon with an Ethereal Amulet. So you got a 3-up save that can't be rendered, and then put easily in Legions of Sacrament because of all the extra spells they get. You're 100% putting onto yourself a Mystic Shield, meaning you're a 3-up rerolling ones. So really only 2s are hurting you. It's a good combo, and look, you got 3 big hammers in the army, and everybody else just follows along behind them and is like, oh yes sir, can I have some scraps? And picks up the objectives. You can see how it got second. It's a good list. It's solid, and it did good. But the last list I'd like to look at, this is the list that came third. So the third place getting list was fucking Fire Slayers. Jeremy V, a very talented player. Unless I'm thinking of the wrong Jeremy, I'm pretty sure he pushed my poo in at the Wet Coast GT. So he's a great player. Taking the Fire Slayers. Hermdar is the Lodge. Not too sure on the Lodge, but the thing I really want to talk about is this. And the thing that... Oh, you picked up more trolls. Oh, God. Okay, yeah. So you got Fellwater Trolls. You had 6 out. Okay, so yeah. The good thing about Fellwater Trolls is that they're kind of messy. So I guess you can put that back. Yes, looking at this list, right? I'm digging the fact that it is different to the majority of Fire Slayers list we saw in the entire of Age of Sigmar prior to this. There are no like big solid units that are relying on a save to keep them alive and just basically grind out their opponent. There's no Volkite Berserkers, right? Like, I don't think I saw a Fire Slayers list at all in the previous edition that didn't have at least 60 Volkite Berserkers. Lists that were doing well had 90, and lists that seemed to be taking out events were like 120. Now, for those who weren't aware of how they worked, Fire Slayers before their old book had 1 wound. They had, for the most part, a 4-up save with a reroll, and then a 4-up save after save against damage. That you needed to kill 11 out of the unit to reduce it to a 5-up save after save, yada, yada, yada. So Fire Slayers were possibly the most durable army in the game, and the way that they won the game was basically about like blocking you out, holding you out, and then just wrecking you. So I love this list. I love what I'm looking at for a couple of reasons. The first is I don't see a Volkite Berserker in the house. I see all combat units. Hearthguard Berserkers, Hearthguard Berserkers, Hearthguard Berserkers. 30 with pole axes, great. They're popping in some mortals. 2 10s with broad axes just for that more like reliable damage. 2 Grimwrath Berserkers, which I don't believe are technically leaders. I think they're other units. I think they're a character that's another unit, which is why if you're looking at it, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It looks like there's 7 leaders. I think there's only 5 because the Berserkers are technically another unit. Yeah, it's just awesome. I'm digging it. I love the Knight of Xeros for that support. Also, this, like the Knight of Xeros is solving one of the big issues, which is something that I always talk about with Dispossessed, is knowing how to solve your issues. So Dispossessed is slow. Fire Slayers are not completely slow with their runes, but they're a little slow. So having a unit with fly, having a unit with a high move that can get onto objectives and capture, that's what you need. So yeah, looking at it, love it, looks good. Also, just that little reroll ones to hit. It's a nice buff for all the throwing axes that are just fucking coming your way. The 2 Berserkers, obviously, they're like the 1-2 punch for taking out stuff. The fact that they get to pile in and attack twice, and then if they die, they're still scary. It's terrifying. And just the Lords of the Lodge being taken with all those different units. It's fucking awesome. I dig it. There's prayers. There's everything. It's a shame that the endless prayers that the Fire Slayers have didn't make it into the list, but I can see why. They're just not quite as good as, say, the ones for Khorne or things like that, except for maybe the Mine. So yeah, I dig it. There's also a little bit of tunneling, which means either 30 or 10, or even a character can tunnel up. It's a fun list. It's a solid list. And also the Hearthguard Berserkers that are part of the battalion can pile in and attack twice. It's fucking great. And it came in 3rd. And this is, let's remember this, for Jeremy, the lead time on this book would have been 2 weeks, I believe. Which means that I'm assuming he already had the army, but he had to learn the book, practice, or just like fucking play it by the seat of his pants. So credit to anyone that does well this close to a release with an army that they don't really understand. That's just fucking awesome, man. So yeah, I big much love for the dwarves in the first place, just to see some Dwarden doing well, but also like just competitively being able to pull that together. That's awesome. So these are the results that we've been talking about today. For those who are a little bit late in joining us, and for those who've been listening since the start, you've heard me say that like 4 or 5 times, but I just want to be open and inclusive of everyone, right? Flesh Eater Court's dominating in Australia at the moment. Think looking back over the last 2 weeks, of the 9 potential places available for Flesh Eater Courts, I think now they've taken like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think they've taken 6 out of the 9 potential places from the results of events that I've covered from Australia. So that's yeah, they're 66% of the podium finishes in Australia at the moment. That should probably tell us something about Flesh Eater Courts. One of the last couple of things we're going to chat about, because it's obviously a school night, unless we get detoured, because we've been detoured a couple of times. I would really like to look at some of those new models, right? Like that new hotness that we got coming out. Because the community site, when Warhammer came for the Heats in Australia, they brought community releases and they were showing us all the cool new stuff that's coming. It's fucking great. I love it. And one of them was obviously all of this stuff. So let me just pull it up here so that we can have a little look-ski. It's all this. I'm going to shuffle over this way so we can look at it all. Oh, damn, look at that. Oh, high tech, cutting through different overlays. What? So it's all this stuff here. I think it's amazing. It looks sick. The weird like goat lion thing, all of the different characters. I'm really excited for Warcry. I'm not even a Chaos player and I'm excited for Warcry. I dig like the aesthetic. I dig the idea. My one worry for it, right, is the thing that I love about, so I play a bit of Kill Team in 40k. The thing I love about it is I get a little bit of narrative with very little upkeep. And it's the same with Path to Glory. I'm playing in a Path to Glory campaign at the moment. I love that I get a lot of narrative with just a tiny little bit of upkeep. Like, it takes you about 5 minutes at the end of a game to deal with it. The thing that kind of disappointed me about Necromunda when it came out is that the pre and post game upkeep are massive. It's like 45 minutes before the game, half an hour, 45 minutes after the game, just to deal with all of the upkeep with it. So my one worry for Warcry is how they're going to balance that upkeep with the game. But just looking at the models, they're damn gorgeous. However, I wondered they might have some kind of cool new AOS rules. Dadhammer, mate, beating me to the punch. The other thing that I want to talk about after Warcry is this little bit of sexiness right here. Oh, that new terrain. Whew, all right, that puts me in a special place. Like, okay, do you know what gets me the most? Okay, what do you think in the chat gets me the most hot under the collar for this new terrain? Because I'd like to know what you think. What you think excites me the most about it, or what excites you the most about it. Because the second I saw this terrain, I got real keen, real excited. More excited than any of the other Age of Sigmar terrain we have seen released to date. This frothed me up real hard. So I'd like to know why you think it gets me excited. I've got a number of reasons. Fully modular, Gnome's Bane, that's good, but not it. The fact that it's fully modular is fucking awesome. So they've released, if you check out Warhammer Community, they've released a bunch of different images of some of the different pieces. They're fully modular, easy to combine. Like, just look at that. I think that's like 3 or 2 different pieces shaped differently and put together. The kitty cats, Jimmy 1080, the next 100-point version. No, it's not the kitty cats. Not a big fan of cats. I'm a dog person more. Not to say I don't love cats. I just prefer dogs. Dadhammer, pretty much hitting the nail on the head there. It's clearly made to play games on. If you look at that, like, look at those large, flat, the Tomb King aesthetic. I do dig Tomb Kings. I love their aesthetic. And it is kind of there, but no, it's that large, flat playing space, right? Like, you can fit models on there. Models can sit there, they can fight, you can have units, you can put things together. I really dig that. It's clearly thinking about the game. It's thinking about how it's played. Because if you look at a lot of the pieces, like even the ruins, like, they're not really as usable unless you put them on a base. I think that there's another piece for any order going to come. Yeah, actually, that'd be kind of cool. There'd be like a piece of terrain for like Grand Alliance armies. That'd be fucking sick. But I just dig looking at them. I'm like, I can see, not only can I see them as beautiful terrain pieces, I would love to know about the designer of them. I'd love to know what went into the planning, because I'm 100% sure the thought process wasn't just, how do we make it look cool? How do we make it look Age of Sigmar? How do we do all of this? It was also, what do players need to play the game on it? And I fucking love it for that reason. It is just real well put together. I personally think that these are going to sell like crazy, depending on the price point. Hopefully they're decent, just because you can use them well. And I think that while we as gamers are very quick to point the finger at things that we don't think are right, which I will keep doing at Flesh Eater Courts until my fingers fall off, we also need to give credit to when they absolutely fucking nail it. And with the design of this, I also love that it's like kind of ruins but not ruined, because one of my pet hates in Age of Sigmar is we always seem to be fighting battles over like destroyed terrain or ruins or something. It's like, why the fuck aren't we ever fighting over something that's still together? I like that these are together. I like that they look like kind of beaten and weather beaten and maybe like enduring but not wrecked. I think it's awesome. So I think we should give credit. Yes, the stairs are potentially a bit frustrating. However, looking at them, I also feel like they're probably about like a charge distance away. So if you're at the bottom and you charge, like, we'll see. They've been playing a lot of the new Assassin's Creed. Yeah, potentially they're inspired by the most recent one. Who's doing that these days? Not sure. But yeah, I dig it. So I think we all should give credit where it's due to that, because that is an amazing one. But the on those kind of new releases that we've been having a look at, the one thing that I do want to just look at one more time, and that is, so we're just looking at some of these models here. Let's just remind ourselves of those models. They're beautiful, they're great. Look at that, like, dude with his little speary thing. We got Chica with her little whippy, mate with his big axe. And then you look at mate with his big axe, and you're like, a big axe, mate. I'm getting deja vu looking at you. Getting a little bit of it. Because I'm looking at you and I'm going like, damn, I feel like I've met you before. Where have I possibly seen you before? And then about like 2 hours before I was starting to get ready for tonight, I got sent this, and I'm sorry, I don't know who to credit for it, but I think it's fair. I think it's fair. I mean, let's have a look at this. That's hard. It's not really not true as well. Like for those who aren't reading, I just put up an image of one of the new Warcry characters side by side with an image of one of the old school starter set Blood Warriors, the one with his axe in the air and his fist down. And they are almost a perfect mirror match for each other. They're like, other than their helmet and their armor being slightly different, the pose, the leg positions, even the secondary arm and the raised, so even the axes that they hand are both toothed. And the quote that someone's put along with it is, "Hey man, can I copy your homework?" And the answer is like, "Yeah, sure, just make it look a little different so no one knows that you copied it." And they really, really do. So go back and check out one of those old easy to build Blood Warriors, the champion of the unit, and the new model with the axe, if you're listening back. Because yeah, it's definitely there. It's hard to deny. It's uncanny. Now, arguably, that is a very common victory pose. So we gotta, like, we can't throw too much shade there. It is a very, very common pose. And like even when people are releasing video games, right? Or even Games Workshop releasing new editions, new rules, everything, you can playtest something to the nth degree. You let it out onto the internet and someone's going to go, "Oh, it looks like that," and like break it or find it or do whatever. But yeah, this looks like old mate got a little bit disillusioned with Khorne, travelled to Gyran or Gur, and Gur, I think, and then just started hunting around for beasts. Yeah, Dimensional Cascade. To be fair, how many poses are there really? I know, right? How many different ways can we actually hold our arms and position our legs? It's not that many. They put his foot on a rock, so they changed him up. It's fair. To be honest though, both of these models are delicious. They're gorgeous. They got a lot of character to them. So there's not really anything wrong with replicating the pose. I just think it's quite funny. But let's be honest, they're both sexy. They're both gorgeous models. It's not going to stop anyone from buying them. And it's not as like obvious as when people just like carve a different thing into it, like the same chest plate and ship out the same model. I don't know what to do with my hands. Yeah, it's just like he saw someone else do this pose. He was like, "This looks good, right, guys? We nailed this, yeah." But it looks like the Blood Reaver champion as well. Obviously, Chaos leaders are real fans of holding their weapon in the air and something secondary down by their hip. They're just always into power posing. They took a TED talk on power posing, probably. Actually, that's my prediction coming out of this show, is that all Chaos Warriors, when they get to champion, like unit champion level, they have to do a TED talk. And that TED talk is on power poses to dismay the enemy and encourage their followers. And that's where we get these models. They look beautiful, they're stunning, not taking anything away from them. It's funny, but let's be sure. And actually, sorry, Vanilla Alex, whose handle I can never pronounce, the medal on his helmet is probably the classic Hero Quest Chaos guy. Yeah, I actually dig that with Warcry. I feel like there's a lot of leaning back towards Hero Quest and even Mordheim with like the pit fighters and stuff like that. It's great. So yeah, I dig it. I think it looks sexy. I think it looks great. But don't skip leg day. No, you can never skip leg day because otherwise look, like old mate on the left hand side there of the screen, he clearly didn't skip leg day and then put on armor. So if you're going to be showing off those thighs, you want to make sure that your leg day was pretty decent for that one. Now, sorry, I did mention before I would discuss the picklebacks because I was introduced to them. I don't think I have anything positive to say about them. other than that they scare and confuse me, and I don't know why they exist, possibly just to ruin some delicious Jameson. But thank you for that, for everyone who was responsible for introducing me to that and making me drink so many of them. Because now, obviously, where it's the classy show, we are drinking bubbles. So cheers to those playing along with the drinking game at home. But yeah, I went on a bit of a pub crawl, and people took great pleasure in punishing me with picklebacks. And I drank so many of them. And if you have to sell me on the flavour of something for electrolytes, you are not selling me on it well. That's all I'm going to say on that one. You 100%... you 100% shouldn't be selling something on the electrolytes in it when the flavour tastes like you're being kicked in the throat by some kind of weird fruit vegetable that's been pickled for ages. It's not good. Fire Drake with the same picture changed my mind. Yeah, it is. It's just, it's like one of them's not wearing his pants. You can sell me nut chips. So that was my experience of Canada. I've experienced picklebacks. They are a thing that I have possessed. So yeah, it was rough. It wasn't good. No, just catching up. Okay, right, mate. So just catching up. You were the Seraphon player at the Australian Champs. Wicked. Fuck yes. What was your fucking list, mate? Because I've been like singing your praises for about the last half hour, talking about the fact that you got in third in like such a tight field with, I'm sure, Flesh Eater Courts left, right, and centre. If you want to, can you post in the chat what your list was? Because I fucking love to know. R1VT. So I assume both you and Jimmy 1080 are both cut from the same robotic cloth, which is why you obviously have to have numbers in your name to discern things. But just managed to get Warhammer name first. Oh my gosh, Dad Hammer, have you got a Warhammer name? Fucking that is awesome, mate. Everyone in the chat, can we just give some snaps for Dad Hammer? Check out his shit. He does some wonderful stuff on the narrative and the background and the lore of everything. However, also has Orion, obviously the King of the Woods, coming in. And that's just fucking excellent. I'm real glad about that. R1VT, mate, if you can throw your list up in the chat, I would love to fucking know what it was. I'd love to talk about it. Because let's be honest, the Gristlegore and the Blisterkin, while that's cool, and I'm really impressed with the people that do that, I want to know. One of the things I was saying earlier about Seraphon, the reason I fucking love Seraphon is because I feel like they are a very, very balanced army. They have to, if they want to summon, they have to sacrifice spellcasting as opposed to getting their summoning for free or for something they do. It was an Engine of the Gods, a Slan, Astrolith Bearer, 3 Tens of Skinks. Oh, Thunderquake. Okay, right. 3 Razordons, 2 Bastiladons, Cogs and Bowwind. Shooty Bastiladons or Snaky Bastiladons? This is what I want to know. And I'm not going to tell you which was right or wrong or which were... They were Shooty Bastiladons? Shooty Bastiladons? Oh, see, I love Snaky Bastiladons. I like them. But I also recognize that in this list... Wait, 2 Engine of the Gods. Fuck. Okay, right. So going for the mortal wounds or the summoning or something like that, or the extra move and double attacks and shit like that. Fuck yeah, mate. Solid effort. And like we were talking about before, obviously not a Saurus in sight, apart from the Astrolith Bearer, which I'm guessing was there for like ablative wounds and summoning and stuff like that. But dude, credit to you. Go back and watch the show once we finish up. Because I was talking a lot about what I like about Seraphon, the fact that they're so balanced. They've got to make sacrifices to get their summoning. Nothing is particularly overpowered, or a lot of things rely on random dice rolls. You played Gem in the last game and got a terrorization 2 wins. Oh wow! So I'm guessing that in the last game. So sorry, what the discussion that we're having here is in the last game, the Seraphon coming in third played the Flesh Eater Courts that came in second there, the Blisterkin, and he got an 18 and killed the zombie dragon and then took the Terrorgeist General down to 2 wounds. But that's rough. Yeah, definitely check it out. Post it up, man. I'd love to see the link. Because that's fucking awesome, dude. I dig it. I think for me, Seraphon doing well is something that everyone should celebrate because they're a balanced army, which means you had to play real tight to get it there. Congratulations, dude. Everyone in the chat, we just gave snaps to Dad Hammer for getting his son named after a Warhammer character. Let's give some snaps to R1VT and say congratulations because that's a fucking solid effort. And yeah, I mean, mate, one turn from Flesh Eater Courts is rough. Like, let's just take that out. Let's take the double turn out of there. A single turn from Flesh Eater Courts fucks you up. If they get the double turn, it's pretty much game over. It is, though, I will say, what I love about War Dollies, what I love about Age of Sigmar is that priority roll. I think it's important. It also means that, like, I like that it's a sign that you had to play so far out of defensive, like the defensive zone, to have a chance. The reason for that for me is that kind of says that Flesh Eater Courts are a problem. If you did that much damage turn one, but had to extend yourself so far to be in with a shot, it kind of says something. Beat Sylvaneth. It always warms the cockles of my heart to see Sylvaneth played. A few people have asked me what I think about the new Sylvaneth releases, and I'm really excited for them. Anything that gets more people playing Sylvaneth makes me happy because there's nothing that brings me more joy than crushing Sylvaneth models and taking them off the table. So all the Sylvaneth out there, bring out your Kurnoths, bring out your Dryads, bring out your Alarials and that new little dude with the weird fucking parasite up his bum. Bring them all out because all I'm going to do is kill them. I'm going to set them on fire with Iron Drakes or chop them down with axes. It makes me heart. So please, as many Seraphon players as we can get, just come back. Welcome back. Stop being scared of your army because I want to kill it. But thank you so much, R1VT, for dropping in. I'm so sorry you missed where I was talking about how wonderful you did and how great you are. Everybody give that little link that he popped in the chat there a read. Give him some credit because that's fucking solid effort. Cheers for that, by the way. Good job. Everyone is very pleased. So yeah, I think yeah, mate. I agree. I think Seraphon is a really good army, but I just think they're fair. They're fairly pointed. They're fairly balanced, except for Saurus. We spoke about that earlier. Go back if you want to see it. But the Seraphon, for my money, are one of the most balanced armies in the game, which is why I think that to do well with them in an event is a sign that you played them very, very well. So congrats on that, man. Really, yeah, just the best kind of shit. And we'll stop high-fiving each other. But that's about it. The last thing that I want to talk about is I have some Roblin dice here. I have some Roblin dice. There they are. Ooh, look at those. Some dice. And in previous editions, back when I was in Australia, I would give them away to people who could answer ridiculously fucking tricky general knowledge questions. So what I'm going to try to do in future episodes is I would like to make that a thing. And I would like to put that out there. So what we're going to do and what we're going to do going forward is if you want a shot, hit me up on Twitter and say, like, I'd like to be added into the hat or whatever. But you got to be able to watch live. And what I'm going to do is a couple of days before each episode, I'll put all the names in a hat. I'll pull one out, and you will have your shot at winning some Roblin dice, some honest Wargamer Roblins. I don't know if the camera's going to pick that up. I hope it will. We'll see if it looks halfway decent. Anyway, guaranteed to roll nothing but ones. As soon as you put a Roblin on one side of the dice, it's not going to do well. But if you hit me up on Twitter, I'll get you on. But we'll have some sample questions, because what's life without a bit of sampling and testing the waters before we start? I'm just going to find where I put them. The whiskey is there. There we go. So we'll have a couple of sample questions just to see if anyone, just in the chat, let's sound off. Let's see if you can get it. All right. We're not playing for anything. There are no points on offer in this one. This is just throwing it to the chat to see if anyone can answer these. Great morale test dice, 100% yes. If you need to roll for Battle Shock, that's the dice you want to roll on. Okay, here's an example question for those of you playing at home. Those who want a shot at it next week. Again, hit me up on Twitter. I'll add your name to the hat. I'll draw one, drop you a message and see. Okay. How many swords are stabbed into the back of a slaughter brute? How many swords are stabbed into the back of a slaughter brute? Now, when we're doing it, you're only going to have a couple of seconds to answer. We'll give you a little bit more time now, see if anybody can get it right. But you'll have, let's say, 5 seconds to answer, so that people can't Google their answers or pull their shit up or phone a friend or something like that. 7.3. Gnome's Bane chiming in with 8. Any other guesses before I put you out of your misery? The correct answer is 8. There are 8 swords because there's a 9th one stabbed into the middle, but it's a rune of binding. So if we were playing for the tickets, Gnome's Bane, you would have picked up it. You would have gone it. The second, I'll give you two. I'll give you 2 little demo questions. All right. So this is the second one. I'm just going to wet my whistle before we go into it. This is a tricky one, right? Like I genuinely, if anyone can get this one, I'll be fucking impressed. So bring it on, chat. I got you. I like what you're saying. What was the light of hope? There's a multiple choice. I'm going to give you a couple of options. So what was the light of hope? Was it the Tzeentchian sales pitch used to convince locals in Hammerhall? Was it the local name for Stormcast used by the people who became the descendant, who then descended to become the people who made up Hammerhall? The light that shines out of Sigmar's arse, or a cog fort lost out of Hammerhall? So what was the light of hope? Was it the Tzeentchian sales pitch used to convert people of Hammerhall? Was it the local name of like the tribals who saw the first Stormcast that became the city of Hammerhall? Was it the light that shines out of Sigmar's arse? Or was it a cog fort operating out of Hammerhall? So what do we got? Sigmar's fart, yeah. D, but I prefer C. B. Okay. B. The answer was the light of hope was a cog fort. It was actually a cog fort out of Hammerhall. So it was, if you read any of the stories that were coming out around the time that Malign Portents was released, it was a cog fort that kind of went out to secure a gate into the realm of Shaiish, and then like all the doors rusted shut, and basically the inhabitants just aged until they turned to dust. It was fucked up. It's like one of my favorite little stories about how, like, it also talks about how a cog fort deploys and stuff like that. No, books are for nerds. It's not a book. I swear, it's on the internet. It's not a book. There was no fucking pages involved. I love the planet. I love the environment. I wouldn't set fire to anything like that to make a book. But anyways, I'm going to go back and watch from where I was. Oh mate, yes, definitely. I'm on VT. Shoot me a message or something like that. On Facebook, Instagram, wherever. Twitter. I'd love to have a chat about Seraphon. Fucking love Seraphon. Dad Hammer remembering it. Book make a great background noise for painting. Yeah. Also, books make a great general noise when you smack them against the side of someone's head. There's like a lovely like round thunk, and they don't leave a bruise, which is an easy way if you and your brother want to have like book fights as a child. Your parents will never know. I had a weird childhood. Anyway. That's an example of what I'd love to do with the Price is Roblin or whatever we end up calling it. If you've got a great name for some kind of trivia-based dice giveaway, sound off. In fact, we'll let the chat decide what we're going to call it, because let's be fair, that's the best way to do it. You guys know it. And then we'll have a look at it at the end, and then next week I'll get someone on, and you'll have like roughly 15 seconds to win some dice, and I'll mail them out to you if you win it. Gnome's Bane, you're 100% right. That's the one in the Night of Shrouds. Then, like, basically just sat there while they turned to old men and their teeth fell out. Yeah, R1VT, drop me just shoot me at me on Twitter. I'm bad at like Twitter things, but I will see that, and then we'll talk, and we'll get you on. I'll show you. It's super easy, and we'll bring some Seraphon love to the eyes and ears of the world. That would be great. So yeah, Dad Hammer, 100%. I'd love to actually, maybe that would be a good one. Drop me a message. That would be a great one. I'd love to try and find a narrative one for you, and see if like something super fucking obscure. That's why we'll name it something like "fuck you trivia," where you just get to swear at me if you don't know it. But look, that is it. Our 2 hours are just about up. You've all got places to be, things to do, people to eat. If you're a Flesh Eater Courts player, because obviously that's how you operate. Thank you so much for joining us. As we did discuss, for those who were here at the very start and have remained until the very end, you are the reason that I've been drinking sparkling rosé tonight instead of whiskey. So thank you so much for that generous gift. Well, for those of you who are here, it's time to start, watching Netflix prior to going to bed. Popping those bottles, son. I'm popping them left, right, and center, because this is the alcohol show. No other show on the Honest War Game will bring you as much alcoholism and rampant drinking as this one will. So thank you so much, everybody, for being here. So if I do get R1VT on, mate, you're only going to be able to talk about everything was your imagination. But thank you so much for coming on. It's been wonderful to have you here, and I guess we'll see you again this time next week. Thank you for joining us. And if you are a supporter, whether you're a subscriber here on through like Prime, Twitch Prime, or through whether you're just a subscriber in general, if you support us on Patreon, that's fucking spectacular. You are wonderful people. I'll give you all a big cuddle. And yeah, it really does mean a lot, because what we try to do, and whether you watch any of the other shows, whether you drop in here occasionally, we just want to make stuff that makes you happy and brings war dollies to everybody, because we're excited about it too. So thank you so much. Cheers. Have a lovely evening, and bless these bubbles, I guess. Yeah, sure. We'll end on that. That seems healthy.